Okey doke. Might as well start with checking out how the sound is. Um, a lot of stuff that would be fun to talk about today, and today for in the U.S. it's the day before Thanksgiving, which means a lot of you may be out of town or on the way out of town or something else. Hey, Michael, how you doing, man? Happy Thanksgiving to you too. For those of us, yeah, well, people from, who travel to Timbuktu. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. I had a friend who used to go to Europe. Hi, Junior. Hey, how's things in Kentucky? My old Kentucky home. A friend of mine used to like to go to Europe during Thanksgiving. And this is what he said. He said, for international flights, he said it's really great because I don't I don't know if I want to go near an airplane today. Uh, I'm in the jungle for the holidays. Well, that's a safe place for you. Bingo bongo. I don't want to leave the jungle. Anyway, um, so what I've been doing. This is for I've been collecting things for Friday's video, and I was looking for the Friday is going to be what they call Black Friday, and the reason it's called Black Friday is simply because that's when the sales. It used to be the Friday after Thanksgiving was the day that everybody went Christmas shopping, and when they went Christmas shopping, the stores would then go on the black. They'd come out of the red and go on the black. Hey, Brian, how you doing? So that was Black Friday. So I thought, well, I mean, they've had Black Friday going on for months now. In fact, I something I told my wife I wanted. I said, "This is what I want," and I think she got it for me. And then I found out that they went on sale already. I thought they were waited until they were desperate before they went on sale. Anyway, so what do you guys? What's new? Anything that is worth what we should discuss and figure out what the what can be done about it. One thing I reminded, I think it was last time we had these one of these sort of spontaneous chats. We talked about we're going to make our own watch. What are you guys thinking? Everybody seemed to be for it, and so I had on the last video I had on Monday. It was sort of here are all the parts and everything. And everybody who wants to be involved can get all of those things. Hey, Captain Zed, how you doing? And so so that thing's rolling along. So we did have something along those lines. And but one of the things that I thought between now and for Thanksgiving, we're going to a big family gathering and stuff. So it was, it was everybody will have a getting together. Actually, I know a lot of times people dread, the last thing they want is Uncle Donald who comes up and, does this pull my finger thing and all the grandkids and the nephews and nieces and so forth. We're going to one, let me see how many relatives are going to have their relatives and ex relatives, whatever. Let me see, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. There'll be 10 of us. So we have a big Thanksgiving on that. So I mean, if that's not chaos, I don't know what is. I know some of you have much more chaos than that. Anyway, so enough of that. All right, that's our Thanksgiving talk. Now let's get serious and talk about watches. One of the things that I always like to learn about is, oh my God, Brian, 30 of you. Oh, geez, that's called the tribe. I thought 10 was a lot to handle. Anyhow, um, ah, yes. Yeah. Anyway, um, moving right along. One of the things I've been trying to do, I've been I got the parts for the watch that we talked about. I wanted to get one of these, see if I have it here. See if it won't fall apart. Oh, Jesus, it just dropped something here I shouldn't have dropped. I was putting it on the second hand, and I found it. It's in my keyboard. But this is the this is the most difficult thing to put on for me at least. And there it is. Good God. Um, what I did, me and my this will teach me for showing off. What I have to do now is to retrieve my second hand that is in my keyboard here and put it back there. There, it's all back. My old tweezers back at work. Gotta be careful. Anyway, uh, one of the hardest things to do, besides losing parts, which I seem to be good at, is to put the second hand on. And so I saw all of these. A lot of people publish these tricks that they use. They have some really neat ones. The one I liked, the guy had, and I tried something like this. He'd put looked like a little drop of Rodico putty on the end of a hand setter, and he used that. So he put it on there and got it on there somehow. I was thinking of doing the same thing except using a toothpick, using the uh, either toothpick or a pegwood stick. Let me get it out. Show you what I'm talking about here. See this? This is a pegwood stick. And right at the end, you just got it like just a solid end, like a little, you cut the end of a dollar, a doil. Or you can use a toothpick. I think here's the flat end and here's the pointy end of the toothpick. But using the flat end, just putting just a little Rodico oil, a Rodico putty on the end of it. Um, you might be able to. That might be a trick. I'm going to try. Here's one is been doing some work on something else, and it have my little Rodico putty at the end of that. And you pick it up and you put it just so. What I got to do is use about 1/10 of that much putty. I don't know what else you could. Maybe there's some other thing to do it. Hi HRM. Have you heard of the young watchmaker J.S. Elliott? He's just 17 years old and recently used his first watch. It's very impressive. You know, HRM, I wouldn't be surprised. I have seen some of these young guys. Not only are these young guys upholding some of the best traditions of classical watchmaking, they're really good at it. Peterman and Badat, another guy, Cyril, somebody who's in France. So this J.S. Elliott, I wouldn't be surprised if he's come up with something. Number of years ago, I was in there was an old group called the Hour Lounge that was for Vacheron Constantin people. And this kid had just graduated from high school, I think, in Holland, in the Netherlands. And so he's coming on. He's talking about what he wants to do. He wants to go into watchmaking. My God, that kid knew. He was he had sort of the knowledge of somebody who loves horology. This is great. Hi, Hobby. How you doing, man? Same to you. J.S. Elliott, his dials are incredible. You should receive a watch at the end of the month. Oh, boy. Oh, you got one, HRM? Great. Yeah, I'd be interested to see it. Okay, what else we got going for us? Let's see. Um, I think the scandal on the timepiece gentleman is about worn out. I think the guy's going to be doing some more time in jail. What's going to happen to the people that lost money? Let me tell you sort of a funny thing. The way I think a lot of legal stuff is set up in the civil cases, anyway. The the defendant, okay, in other words, the person defendant. So let's take this guy, the guy who calls himself the timepiece gentleman. And he's got all this money. He had millions. He was blowing money left and right and doing stuff like that. But you will just say that he kept some of it. And even though it belonged, I mean, it was illegally taken, but since he's innocent until proven guilty or something like that, he can use that money to hire the best, the very best defense attorneys. So that's something rotten. Oh, Brian, great. You've been practicing. It's easy. Yeah, I put the dial on a shake pad, and the pad keeps up with my shaking hand. Okay. Yeah. You know, one of the things that I saw that was really cool that the guy did, they have I mean, basically you take a little piece of cardboard. Let me see if I can do it here to show you guys what was the thing that I saw is that I take something that's relatively unblemished. He had a piece of paper. This is back of one of my used calendars, and he cut up like a diamond shape in it or a triangle of sorts, I guess, yeah, something like this. And then he put this point right here where the post is for the second hand. And I'm going to use that. So you put that thing up there, and you can see. I mean, you know, here you got this little bitty post to put it on. You put it on here, and so, whoops, it's my Dilbert calendar. So anyway, you put it here, and I'm going to try that, and then Brian, what you can do, the nice part, you can move it like this while your hand's shaking and put them both together. I don't know if my hands shake that much, they might, but I got 10 thumbs. I think I'm a aberration of some sort trying to put that stuff together. Timepiece lawyers are specialized in hiding assets. Yeah, this is, you know, most of the people in Congress and people who go into to get elected are lawyers, and they somehow end up, you know, with, well, it's very important to assume innocence until proven guilty. Well, first of all, none of them do that I've met anyway, and usually they're the first ones to suggest that their definitive plea guilty. You know, there's sort of all of this stuff going on. But anyhow, that's something. That's another thing. I cut a piece of tarp in that shape. Works great. A piece of tarp. I mean, like a great big piece of tarp. HRM. Anyway, but see, the thing about this, and not this in particular, but the thing about getting into making our own, you know, making our own watches, taking a case, a movement, a dial, and hands, and sort of putting them together is sort of what I call pretentious watchmaking. By the way, too, we do have a Facebook site called Pretentious Watchmakers. Those of us who are like to say we make our own watches, please join us. You know, unless you have a lot of talent, we don't like to, you know, they sort of make fun of us if they too much talent, we have to throw them out. So for those of you who are less so, welcome. Oh, thick plastic sheet. Okay, yeah. In fact, that's probably the better thing to use. What else do they use that for something else? In fact, you can buy them already cut, and they simply like you say, a piece of plastic, and then you cut that in them, and you sort of have. I'm trying to think what they're used for. Oh, I know what they're used for. A lot of times, I'll put it like this: is that here you have? Oh, listen, that like this is the post, okay, for your for something for your watch hand, and so you put a piece of plastic like this, you stick it in there, and then you use a hand. They have these hand removers that are sort of look like like the end of a hammer that you pull them out with. So, okay, how about let's talk about watch places. In other words, places to get watches that you can find some interesting deals. Anybody got to want to start on that? I got several in mind because I've been working on something for that. What would be a cool place to go take a look at a watch? Hey, John, how you doing? The flea market. Oh, wow. Flea market. I haven't done anything. I haven't got one there yet. I think a lot of times at flea markets you can find some really good buys on watches that are heritage watches. Like somebody has a bunch of old ones and stuff. I know at one time a lot of people would go there looking for gold watches and take the gold out and melt it down, and so a lot of those I think have met their untimely end. But that would be a place. I have known people who have got fabulous watch deals at flea markets. Um, how about online? Any online places that you've discovered recently? No? Anyone? Let me talk about a few while you're thinking of it. Hi, Junior. Look at Joma Shop. Yeah, I always look at Joma Shop. That's a good place. Let me tell you another place that you might like, and it's called the Watch Outlet. And it's all one word without any spaces. It's all lowercase. It's thewatchoutlet.com. And man, I tell you, they've had a whole lot of good deals. They still do. There are a lot of really good deals there. That was one place. Another place that surprised me, have any of you ever shopped at a place called the shopwarn.com? Ever done anything there? I got a watch. I got one or two watches there back when they had some really nice Parmigianis. And yeah, I I found them to they're sort of one of those places. One day you go there and they have all kinds of great deals. Then another day you go there, they don't. So it's sort of a hit or miss thing. And as a secondary market, they've always been great to take a look at. And this is the shop one. Well, I went there today and I was looking at stuff, and this is what I found out that they now call themselves the soloist. And what I'm finding, and this also happened at a Joma shop, they're expanding what they're selling. Now they have all kinds of luxury items that they're selling as well. It used just to be watches, but what's happened, some of these luxury places like the Real Real and First Dibs and places like that, they're including watches. So so I think the more competition there is, it's the better for us watch collectors. Ashford. Yeah, Ashford is one of those places that's really funny. I think, yeah, they're a secondary market. I don't use the term gray market. That sort of is assuming that there's something shady about them. A friend of mine recently bought a manual wine Reverso for only $1,300 USD from Japan. Japan has got I've dealt with dealers in Japan before. They're great to deal with. Yeah, uh, I've done that too. There's a with Ashford though. What happened at Ashford? This was like I don't know, almost a year ago now. This is where I got my Fabergé, and they had those Fabergé Alexis on sale there for I forgot what it was. I mean, here they were like 15,000 brand new or something like that in gold and white gold. And they were selling them there for around I think 5 or 6 thousand. And it was either there or another place. I think it was another place that I lowballed them and got one for four something. And then what happened at Ashford? Ashford put it back up again to 18,000 on the same watch. So they're very sensitive to the market, I guess. Uh, yeah, uh, yeah, you can get some great things. One of the things I found from some of the places in Japan, you're getting ones with like 40 millimeters and 42 up to 42 millimeters that aren't as popular in Japan. They like, I think, something a little smaller, 39 down even 36 millimeters, 37 millimeters. And so some of these, I think that they're putting up on like places like Chrono 24 are really good buys. And the thing is that dealing with the Japanese, they have a very, I don't want to overemphasize it, but they seem to have a very honest description. I mean, if something, like you'll see something with it looks a little shingered up and like excellent condition. Same one in Japan would be fair. So that's one thing. I think there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, 34 millimeters. Yeah, you can find it. A lot of guys have smaller wrists. And man, I tell you, there's just a really, really good one. I mean, some really good deals. I think the same thing is coming. It seems that watch sizes are going back down again. They got to the point that looked like a frisbee size, and now they're going back down again. This one is an earlier FP Jorn when they were 38 millimeters, and then the second one I got were just a little later, and that's 40 millimeters. So that's another thing that you'll find is that they sort of, what sort of is the perceived style. The Larique watches we have are 39 millimeters. The first two we did, but I think the next one may be like 40, even 41 millimeters. We're going for something a little bigger because a little bigger kind of stuff going on. Yeah, I think 38 millimeters is a good size for me anyway, for my wrist. And I've been my wrist is losing thickness. I've lost some weight, and so it's getting smaller. I was getting there a little too porky for a while, so I had to lose some weight. So my wrist went along with it. Okay, now let me tell you about some other new places I found. The Soloist, I mentioned that. It used to be called Shopworn, .com. Now it's the called the Soloist. Another place, God, I tell you, it's a French place, and I think it's sort of like a French version of what the Real and First Dibs and Fashionophile and all of those that have sort of a mix of luxury goods. And this place is called Versatile or something like that. Anyway, what they have, I was looking at it and I compared one. So I found a watch, Bulgari, with a retrograde calendar on it it had been 8,000 and it was down. They were selling it for like 3,000 on a place called the Soloist. And so I thought, wow, that looks like a pretty good deal. So I was looking around. Then I found another place. I found this French place, and theirs was they had all these discounts that you could have, and I think I got it down to 1,700. This is for an $8,000 watch. Now it was pre-owned, but as soon as you put a watch on your wrist, it's pre-owned. This guy was pre-owned when I got it. It's still pre-owned, but I had it serviced at FP Jorn. nobody likes, a lot of people complain, say, well, if you buy one of these watches or you buy even a Parmigiani, a lot of these watches, they say, well, look at the service cost. That thing's got a great service cost. So what? The watch went sky high. I don't know. To me, for some reason, service prices don't bother me because it's like getting a new watch for the price of the service. Um, I had this blue Parmigiani Calpa, and it's just this great big old watch. Love that watch. And one day it stopped working. Sent it in. It was expensive to have it serviced, but man, it was like getting a new watch. Okay, what else is going on that you've got? What are some other any other hidey holes you guys know about for that you want to tell the rest of us about? What's your second favorite place to go watch buying? So, hi Maggie. Uh, you had a Beauvais service? No, I haven't had the Beauvais service. I got the Beauvais new, and it works perfectly, and so I have no reason to have it serviced. I have one for my. In fact, I end up with 3 Beauvais. I have a new one for me. I got my wife a new one, and then I had this other one from 1940 that is a monorector pump, and that one was new old stock, and that thing works beautifully, even though it's really old. And if I ever do have it serviced, I'll find out what their official service place is, unless I can find a guy, or a gal here who works on Beauvais. Do you know anybody, Maggie? Marketplace, John. Yeah, that's another place that you can find a lot of watches. By the way, let me tell you the rest of this story. I forgot to tell you about this. With that new place I told you about that I found in Paris for really good buys. Well, I found out what apparently, I guess, they they have the watch on consignment from somebody in Italy, and not a problem. I mean, as far as you're going to get your watch, but they have a gator strap. And that's one thing. If you're going to buy a watch from anywhere outside of the country you're in with a gator strap, what's important is to make sure that that they send the strap separately. If they send a strap um, in the same, are you getting those little bubbles up with thumbs up signs? Every time, bingo, and then up comes a little bubble. I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, if you do if you have them send it, the um, have them send it separately. And if you send it separately, then if there's something wrong with it, and they'll grab you'll never see it. But just tell them, say, look, take the strap off, um, and the buckle, and send the watch and the buckle together. And then if the strap doesn't make it, if there's something wrong with it, like it not doesn't meet the criteria, then you're not going to lose. Then they're not going to hold the watch up. But don't have them ship it outside of the country with a gator strap. And I'm not talking about an illegal one. I'm talking about a legal one. It's, you need a ton of paperwork for sites. And I've got a lot of criticism of sites, not for their goal, but for the fact that they don't just put a little chip in the band so that they can tell. Rather, they want a pile of paperwork. And I've got a laser printer that I can do paperwork galore on that they couldn't tell the difference. So I don't see the point in making it very difficult while there's a legitimate, for a legitimate strap. Hey, Junior, what's your thoughts on Omega coaxial movement? Joe Shop has Omega watches on sale. Yeah, I saw that. I love first of all, I really like the coaxial escapement. What I don't like are the silicone hairsprings they stuck in those things. So, you know, um, okay. John, I think ostrich bands are okay. I don't think there's a band. I don't think they're part of sites. I looked them up in sites, and the reason I know it, our new Larique watches are going to have ostrich bands, and that shouldn't be a problem. God knows what, you know, if they send them FedEx, there's always a problem. But not with ostrich bands. Yeah, I tell you, in fact, I think it's a good idea if you read the material on sites, what they're trying to do. You see these awful videos with some poor elephant getting shot for his tusk. And, they want to ban it so that people can't make a lot of money doing that. Well, there are a lot of rare things, like a lot of rare crocodiles and a lot of rare, I guess, different kinds of reptiles and dodo birds and whatnot that they don't want their parts or anything sent. So that's what CITES is for. So it's a good purpose. I'm all for it. But you got to, some guy raising gators in Florida for making suitcases and iPad holders. That's okay. Apparently they've got a lot of gators in Florida, but they don't want some rare ones from somewhere. Okay, so that's that. Anybody else have another good? I'm trying to think of all my hidey holes that I have. I mentioned the shop outlet. Junior mentioned Joma's shop. In fact, the thing with what is it? The shop one. Somebody this morning had sent me an email and said, "Hey, Bill, have you seen this?" And so that was why I went there, and then that's how I found out it was the soloist. I hate doing international stuff, not because I don't trust somebody overseas. In fact, I trust them very much. But who I don't trust is FedEx or one of the other shippers for getting something tangled up. And that's only been my ever been my problem. Hey, I'll tell you a good deal, by the way. There's this place I bought straps for before, really good straps, called ABP Concepts Paris. It's a French place, and so that's one that you might want to take a look at, because they're having a 30% discount. Now, their base price on a really good strap is, I think, like $98 or 98 euros. And with a 30% discount, you can get it for 60 something. And then you can get a super good strap at a great price for that. Most of their prices are like $300 and $400 for straps, but that one I found for this 4-gator strap is the best price I know of. And not this one. The one that I have on my Larique is by another fabulous band maker called Jean Rousseau. They're excellent, but they're very expensive too. Local jewelry may have consignment watch, repaired but never paid. That's a great thing, John. What a great idea. That's a really good one. Somebody takes their watch in, and grandpa's watch, and you fix it, and what? I'm not going to pay that much for that watch, and walk away. So the watchmaker's got a watch. What a great idea, John. So, okay, what else have we got going for where we can find some? Trying to think some other places. I like that idea. Pawn shops. I went into a pawn shop around near where I live, and the watches they had, I couldn't believe they'd even take them in upon. They're really crummy watches. I did at one time get a very nice Vacheron Constantin online from a pawn shop, and dealing with pawn shop dealers, those guys they're really tough and rough, but a lot of times they don't know that much about the value of watches, not down to like you have the price down to a mill by some of these guys working auctions. How about auctions? That's another place. I bought one watch from an auction, and I got it at such a low price that I thought, wow. I mean, I won the bid at a very low price, but then they tagged on 25%. Now, even with that 25% that they add, what they call a buyer's premium, that's not a premium. They had to call it a buyer's gouge. And so they added that 25%. But even with that 25%, the watch is worth it. Since I bought it, it went way up in value. So that was something. So haha for them. Got a good watch. I think it was a Daniel Ross that I got, one of my Daniel Rosses. So that's another thing. If you're going to buy it from an auction, now on the other hand, selling from an auction, I've done very well. There is some tax or premium that the seller has to sell, but it's not very much. And so if you get like, the final price is, it's really funny the way they do it. Let's say you get a watch and it sells for $10,000, and so then they tag on 25%. So the buyer pays $12,500 for the winning bid of $10,000. Okay, so if you're the seller, you get your 10,000, but you don't get that any part of the added 2,500. That's their 25% premium that they have. You just get the 10,000, which isn't bad. I mean, depending on what the watch was, but they also tag you for like a tax in addition. It's not anywhere near 25%. I think the reason they don't do that, they lose too many sellers on that. But let me suggest that now I know there are different kinds of sellers. The ones I'm talking about are the big ones like Phillips, Sotheby's, Christie's. Those are three of the where you have top prices. And the watch can be sold anywhere. You don't know. I mean, like right now, Phillips has a one going on in Hong Kong. And if I bid on a watch, they'll send it to me. Sometimes, though, that they say this, and it has to do with a gaiter strap. What they will say is that there'll be a little warning sign or something that'll say the strap that you get may not be the one that's shown because of yada yada yada. No, just put a leather strap on it and send it to you. Which is it's usually fine with me. I'll just go to APB or Concepts or go to Jean Rousseau and get my own strap. That's another thing too. You can get a relatively inexpensive watch and put a nice strap on it, and it looks great. Or you can go the opposite. If you put a cheap strap on a good watch, it makes the whole watch look cheap. So that's another kind of thing I really avoid. There's a place. Check out it right here. I've got a whole load of places. There's a place for my homemade watches that I use, and it used to be. Let me see, what is it? It's called Panatime. It's in the U.S. It's called Panatime, and you can buy all different types of watches. But the type of band that I like for my homemade watches were leather bands with a stamp on it that sort of a gaiter pattern stamp. And those are like, you're paying $20-$30 for it. You put it on your homemade watch that you paid $20 or $30 to build, and you have it. It can look pretty good. Now you can do stuff like I do that doesn't, it's not very smart in my opinion, and that is buy a really, really good band for one you put together. I just did that recently for ABP Concepts. I I went and bought one of their strapped to the watch that we're building on the sort of the Breguet wannabe watch that we have going. Okay, what else? What else about watches? Anything about watches? We don't have an agenda today. We're just sort of yakking away about watches. What else you got? Anybody about anything? By the way, Maggie had asked about Beauvais service. Anybody uh, have a Beauvais watch that they're having service or had service at one time? What watches? Let me ask you this: what kinds of experiences have you had with a watch being serviced? Years ago, I when I got a Zenith, I got a Zenith Elite and sent it to this watchmaker, and the guy charged me, I think, $45. He looked at it, sent it back, and said, "There's nothing wrong with it." So that was that. Um, it was had a GMT function on it, and everything worked fine on it. And then the guy retired, so I haven't gone back to him. Then my other watchmaker was 80 something years old, and after the pandemic, the shop that he used to be in closed. I don't know what happened to him. The only other watchmaker that I've dealt with is this young guy at this one of this upscale jewelry store nearby. And that guy was, I mean, he has his degree from the Rolex school of, I guess Rolex has their own watchmaking school. He's got a degree from that. And this, the joint that I went to sells Rolexes, and I guess he may be even be doing a service for them. But there was something, he showed me some of the watches he made when he was in school, and they are incredibly good. So, anyways, there's that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, John, too, another one I got a friend of mine from ABP Concepts. He got me this a not a skate, but a Stingray. He got a Stingray one that are great. They're Stingray on one side and they're rubberized on the other. So they're great for hot, sticky weather. For those of you who live in like places like Florida or someplace else where it's hot and muggy, some of the guys from Vietnam were talking about that. Hey, John, how you doing, man? You had warned us about the silicone hairsprings in current Breguet watches. Please remind us what years of production. Good question. Geez. I forgot. Um, I think it was, let me see. Somebody had asked me that the other day, and 2006. It's 2006 for Breguet, and it's 2009 for Patek Philippe. Hi, Hater. How you doing? Oh, good. Yeah, it was before 2009. Brian, for Patek Philippe, the reason I know it was 2009 for Patek Philippe, that was the year that the Geneva Seal Foundation told them, say, look, we're not going to give a Geneva Seal to a watch with silicon in it, and in as a major component. And I think they didn't like them for the same reason that I didn't like it. They just saw it as sort of creeping cheapness, really, is what they saw it as. Now, I know you say, oh, it costs us a fortune and so forth. I have no doubt it cost them a fortune to develop it. But once developed, then it's a very practical and cheap way to keep sort of a steady bounce on your hairspring. It's much more difficult to set it up with something like the Parachrome hairspring from Rolex or the Straumann hairspring from H. Moser. So anyway, so thing to remember, 2006 for Omega, actually all Swatch watches really, and then 2009 for Patek Philippe. I don't know why it took them a couple extra years. They may have argued with the Geneva seal for that long, and then finally said, well, we're going to have our own seal of approval, which has got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Geez, I tell you, Patek Philippe has a great reputation in and of itself. It doesn't need a seal from anybody else, and especially looks stupid giving himself. It's like some kid giving himself a stamp of approval. Like here's my stamp of approval. Hey, David, the best service I've had is from Marathon. They were quick. I've heard of Marathon. David, where's Marathon? Where's Marathon? Are they like an international or national? What are they, David? I've heard of them, but I don't know much about them. Hey, Blue Mountain. Had my Oris Big Crown service by a local watchmaker in UK. Gouged the case and scratched it. The winder was loose. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is something that I think is important to consider. What do you need your watch service for unless there's something wrong with it? I have never serviced a watch that was working well. I had this one serviced in 2017 just because I wanted to have a sort of like a zero time. This is my zero time. And, I've worn it in rotation ever since then. Now, if you wear your watches in rotation, you're not putting the same mileage on it as you would something you wore every day. When I was working, before I retired, I had this Vacheron Content 10 overseas that I wore every day. And it still ran. I mean, it ran beautifully slowly all the time, and the latch kept popping off. I love that watch. I didn't care. I was going to send it in for service, and it ran the same slow amount of time, so I could just add a few seconds to it and knew it was in good shape. Oh man, I tell you, yeah. This is one thing. If anybody with bad experience, Blue Mountain, with a watchmaker, I ought to tell the rest of us about it to avoid them. One thing that this is a simple thing too. A little trick that anybody, and especially a watchmaker, to use whenever you put a band on your watch, always do it from the back. And then if you're using a spring bar tool, you can scratch something back here. It's very easy to scratch something with a spring bar tool. But if you do it here, then you're going to have a scratch on this side. I have to take this top band off whenever I wind my resonance watch. And I even take it's got one of those, what do they call them, a quick time little thing. Let me tell you a problem with these too. With these little, the quick release ones, oftentimes the band it's sort of like this little bitty lip on the band, and they will come loose. I got some, what I got is leather boot glue, which I think is I don't know what it is, but when when this one side, like on this one side here, I don't know if you can see it. See that stuff right here? That's boot glue because this one was coming loose, and so I used the boot glue. These bands, FP Journe bands, are something like $800 a piece, and I thought, heck with that, I'm going to put one of these on there. People say, "Well, yeah, you're worried about service." Well, it's the bands, but the funny thing is, I've been getting, um, I I went to FP Journe, right, I think it's about one of the early times before it was right at the beginning of the end of the pandemic, and they still had their place up on Madison Avenue in New York. So I went in there and talked to a guy, and I asked him about having watches. He says, we've already sold all of our watches out for 2022 or 2023. I forgot what it was. And I said, well, I said, you got a band? And he said, we don't have much. And he showed me some that he had. They just weren't what I liked. That's why they had them left. Nobody else wanted them either. So he said, well, why don't you go up to Jean Rousseau they're up on Fifth Avenue, or actually they're off Fifth Avenue now, I think on 57th. But so a couple years later, another story, I was visiting them, and I had on, I think, one of the bands, either my FP Journe or something, and I said, well, FP Journe sent me up here to get a new band that I wanted, and so, and they said, we make them anyway. We make them for FP Journe. Oh, okay, and they don't cost as much. Marathon is located outside of Toronto. They make watches in Switzerland. Thank you, David. David, let me ask you, if you have, one of the things, I had a transaction with a friend in Canada, sold him a watch, and my God, they had this. I mean, just sent the guy the watch, and they tagged on some huge premium or customs charge on it for some reason, or VAT, I guess. I wonder, would they do that with service? I mean, if you sent your watch up to Marathon, and it's like, I'd be afraid to get geez, going through the stuff that I've gone through with FedEx internationally, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Hey, Tim, happy Thanksgiving to you too. All I own now is FP Journe and a Richard Mille. Well, you got one good watch there, Tim. I don't know. Mille just never appealed to me in the same way that FP Journe did. I think because I don't think Richard Mille is as good as a watchmaker, but that's me. On the other hand, if I had a Mille, those things are worth a fortune. So I guess they must be doing something right that I don't know about. That's probably true with a lot of other ones too. David, they have some stiff customs when you sell something, but never had a problem with the service. That's good to know. There's a really good watchmaker up in Canada that a lot of guys, not a watchmaker, but a band maker, and they have the unfortunate name of Combat Straps. I guess he was selling it to, I don't know who, G-Shock owners. Anyway, he called them Combat Straps, but he forgot what his name is. He makes really good straps, custom made, and his prices are very reasonable. So if you want a custom strap, that's another place. And I like I said, I've heard nothing but really good things about him. I forgot the guy's name. I love MBNF. Mitch? Boy, I tell you, I'm just going to call you 87. You got a hard name to pronounce. Or I should say, in my case, you have a hard name for me to mispronounce, but I'll try. Yeah, MBNF. I love MBNF. who is it? For I forgot what forgot the name of MB is the name of a designer, and F is his friends. Hi, Jose. How you doing? Here in Brazil, we have very good services. Uh, Watch Rescue in Sao Paulo. Whoa. Wow, you got a place called Watch Rescue. That sounds good. How you doing, Balina? Is it Balina or Baina? I'll call you 123. I'm doing fine. Okay, so I mean, for your watch repairs called Watch Rescue. Is that right? Isn't isn't Sao Paulo, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've always thought of Sao Paulo as sort of like the New York City of Brazil. It's this great big city with lots and lots of services. That's the thing about, I don't know, I can take the train into New York City. If I drive, it's about 2 hours, and if I take the train, it's about 3 hours because I have to do a bunch of stuff. But having that nearby, they have everything. It's just sort of a hassle going there and back. I bought my first Rolex yesterday. How is it? You said it's the first time. Maximilian Booster. That's it. Thanks, Brian. Yeah, Max he in his own right is a really good watchmaker. You'll never guess what their hairsprings are that they use. They're one of the few companies that will tell you their hairsprings. It's the Strassmann hairspring. Those are the same hairsprings that Larique uses too. Not a surprise. Now we're gonna. I think our new one we had Straumann hairsprings. Now we're going to have Straumann balance wheels on our new one, on our new watch that's coming out. We hope in the first quarter next year. Yeah, those are. Yeah, those are great watches. Who asked about MBNF? Wamich 87. What was the question that you had about MBNF? Hi, Bayina. I went to the AD with no previous purchases and expected to go on the waiting list for the Rolex Deep Sea James Cameron. But they had one, and I bought it on the spot. Now I expected it, not how I expected it to go. That's great having a good experience. I went into my local Rolex dealer. I was going to buy it. They probably hate to see me coming in because I wear a watch that I know is more expensive than any Rolex, and say, "Well, let me look at your Rolex and see what you got." I did find one though that I do like. Two I like. One is I like the Watchmaster 2, and I like the Sky King. Is it called the Sky King? Is that right? Those are two Rolexes I really like. The Deep Sea James Cameron, boy, that's a special one that they have. Hi, Jose. Wamage Macmillan seems to be a nice, intelligent, but I don't like the concept watches he makes. Of MB&F, uh, I'm trying to think. The ones he makes that I do like, they sort of have like a rounded top on it, a rounded crystal, and you can see the movement. or at least the parts of movement. I think they'll have like the regulator and the escapement and the balance. Okay, so you can see it moving. That's what I like about it. What do they call it? I forgot the concept. They're not your typical watch, that's for sure, but I do like them. Hey Truman, you got to use strum and hairspring and balance on your new Lyrique. Then I have to get one myself at a Heritage Center Seconds. Okay, building the Air King or Sky Dweller. No, I like the Sky Dweller for the movement, but there's something about the Air King I just like. You know what I like about the Air King? Probably what most Rolex owners hate about, about them. I love the dial. They have the dial that was based on it's called the Bloodhound. There was a land racer they made that had put a big jet engine in it, and they were going to start a new speed record, and they took it out to some salt flat somewhere, and it went pretty fast and didn't blow up or anything, but it didn't break the record, and it was sort of a lot of people saw it as a failure. But the thing about the Air King is that the dial on the Air King is based on the Bloodhound went to, I don't know why or what the relationship was, but they went to Rolex to make their instrument panel dials. And it's sort of like put a big jet engine in a land racer. It's pretty close to a jet plane. And so it sort of made sense to have somebody who, for making the same kinds of thing you'd make for a plane. So they did that, and then when the Air King, I guess one of the versions of it came out, they said, "Well, we're gonna put one of those things from the Bloodhound in it." They didn't refer to that, but that's what they did, and so to me, that's sort of cool. And also too is that uh, other than, let me see, I really like. There are two watches that have really great, interesting complications. One is the one you mentioned, the Sky Dweller, and the other one I think is the Watchmaster 2 that doesn't seem to be very popular among Rolex fans. Yeah, listen, if you go to Midtown Manhattan, okay, there are people who will know. Thing to do is talk to the guy who's the head of the Horological Society of New York. They'll tell you how to do anything. Hey, Abdul, how you doing, man? That's it. Boy, Brian, thank God you're here. MBNF Legacy Machine. That's the one I really like. Another one I like, and I don't know whether it's very popular or not, and there's two different color schemes they have for the Milgauss. There's one that I really like. That's sort of an interesting looking for a Rolex. I don't own a Rolex. I don't plan on getting one unless I come across one at a really good deal, like a Prince. Those I like. Why not an OP or an Explorer? I don't know. Like I said, I'm not, because I can give you lots of reasons. Mainly because there are other things I'd rather buy. That's the only reason. I'd rather buy for example, a Roger Dubuis or a Daniel Roth or H. Moser. There are a lot of different ones. Nothing against Rolexes, though. People say, well, how come you don't have a Rolex? I don't have anything against Rolexes. In fact, I like them a lot, especially the fact that they have the parachrome hairspring and some of the other things. What I think what I think Rolex sort of creations remind me of is you have a lot of talent and they got the brakes on. They don't let them do what they can do. And the reason I think that is you see these little pops a really brilliant horology as opposed to sort of a slow or gradual improvement. Um, you have things like the complications in the Sky Dweller and in the Yacht Master 2. Then if you go and back, I guess was 2004 when they reintroduced the Prince. Look at what they did with the Prince. That was so just really creative. First of all, you could see the movement. Second of all, it had a wind-up movement. Third of all, they had the guilloche on the front and the back match. They did all kinds of things. Rolex owners didn't care for it. Cellini, older models, yeah. You know, I think that was that new one called the 1908 or something. I think that's the only one they put the silicon in. Um, yeah. Yeah, Truman, they did. I tell you, all I got to do if I want them to cancel a watch is say, I like it. I like it. Wow, let's get rid of it. Bill likes it. I have the Explorer too. I like those too. And I remember being my favorite traveling companion. Abdul, one reason I wouldn't travel with a Rolex uh, is that they're too recognizable. They are, if you're gonna this one, someone see, they don't know this one's from Adam's Odd Ox, but boy, see a Rolex and boing. But for travel, but what do I know, right? I haven't traveled since the pandemic. Don't let me travel. I had a hard time choosing between a GMT Master 2, Pepsi, Sky Dweller, and green. Ooh, that sounds good. And a deep sea James Cameron, but I have big wrists. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that'll help you on that one. Yeah, what the Prince reminds me of is the Patek Philippe. What is it? I think it's 5124 or something. I think that's it. They have a whole series of gondolas, which they got rid of course, which I liked. But they have very similar kinds of the way they use the finger bridges in the Cellini and the way they use them in the Patek Philippe. Try to think 50. I think it's 5124, something like that. Yeah, David. Yeah, that it's not that I'm not tempted by Rolex. There's so many other temptations. Oh my God. One watch I absolutely love is the H. Moser Heritage GMT. I love that watch. But, I've already got enough GMTs. So trying to think their Streamliner, H. Moser Streamliner. I like that one too. Okay, Abdul, that's a good idea. Yeah, we were just talking about that. Um, there's something about the watch you have, Abdul, about the Explorer 2 that I really, really like. I think that's the best GMT, one of the best GMTs that I know of. It's got that great big arrow that you can follow for the second time zone. That's another Rolex that I think is a really nice one. Hebdo de Mare, yeah, Truman. The only problem with the Hebdo, they have their plates are too big, whereas the Prince has got uses all of those little finger bridges um, the wheel train. But I like a lot of different watches. Sort of sort of feel like the Will Rogers of mechanical watches. I haven't met a watch I I don't like. I mean, there's I mean, look, you're talking to a guy who bought a Fabergé Alexi and got it because they accepted a low ball. Not only do I like it, I fell in love with it. They have nothing about it that I like, but I love it. They're 4 hertz. They have a solid back, and they're automatics. But what a watch! It just turned out. Wow, wow, wow! This is a neat watch. So, so don't listen to me. I don't know anything. I think watches have become sort of almost so visceral that I see start salivating like a Pavlovian dog or something. Now, watches are there's that. This is what I like about the whole process that we're going through making a watch. Both on the one hand with Larique, working with people who know what they're doing, and then doing it with pretentious watchmakers, putting something together. And like I almost just lost a second hand just sitting here talking. Let me show you some. Whoa, with the second hand go. Fortunately, it landed in my keyboard. I was able to fish it out. But there's nothing but fun things to do with watches. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, the Chopek, that's a great example, Truman. The Chopek did the same thing. I like the the one that I like the most is the Georg from Langenheim, where you can really just they have that thing, from the barrel right down to the escapement and balance. You can see the whole thing. I think it's like the watch itself is a course in watchmaking. If you have one of those and you can see how it works, then you understand just about 99% of everything you need to know about how watches work and watchmaking. Hi, Suleiman. How you doing? I have a quartz Longines with hacking seconds. If I leave it in the hacking position with the crown out, would this be detrimental to the battery life? I don't know. I really don't know. Um, Another, I think, great, great, great buy, and I'm glad you remember. I can never remember. But if you left the crown out, would that drain the battery? Well, why would you leave the crown out? First of all, they got hacking seconds. I wonder, maybe if you did have the crown out, that would stop the battery use, because I don't think you wouldn't. The thing I don't like about hacking is that you have a brake that comes down. Here you have the balance wheel and a brake goes just bam right on top of it. And that just drives me crazy. My Langenheim Frederick the second has that, and you can see it. Bam, like those. I'm always using the analogy of a stagecoach. A guy comes into town, and to stop the stagecoach, this big clamp goes down and grabs the wheel, and that's what happens with hacking. I much prefer non-hacking watches, ones without stop seconds. This one, your FP Journes don't have it. At one time, Patek Philippe's never had it because the engineers told Stern, I guess the guy who's ahead of it, they said, that's not good for watches. But people wanted them so much. So I think, if you want that kind of accuracy, that's what you get a quartz watch for, because they're going to be more accurate than the most expensive mechanical watch. They really are. And so this is people say, well, I get a hacking seconds. I gotta have it. We're going over the top, men. So we got to synchronize our watches. You don't. You just have, más o menos. It's okay. I'm buying a Pegane Royale GMT. The thing about Pegane is that uh, they're Royale. That's the name of their movement, isn't it? They call it the Royale something or other. That is something. I love French watches too. I love them all. Like I said, I'm the most useless person to talk to. Should I get this watch? Let me look at it. Oh boy, I like this watch. Uh-oh, you lost the sound. Yeah. Okay. Sound is okay there, Hater? Huh. Well, I'm looking at my thingamajig that tells me how my internet is doing. It's sort of going down. Also, too, I think I've been rattling on for quite a while now, and this was just sort of talk about anything. Anyway, for those of you in the U.S., have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you then. Be careful too. If you have to drive or travel, don't. Take care.